This is your news source evening bulletin for today, Wednesday, the 29th day of May in the year 2024. I'm Gordon Mosley reporting, and here's what we're tracking tonight. Minister of Education Priya Manik Chan today said her ministry is prepared and ready to continue engaging the Guyana Teachers Union in an effort to end the current strike action by teachers. However, she made it clear that teachers must return to the classrooms to allow the negotiations to take place without any duress. In an interview with News Source at her Brigham office, Minister Manik Chan said the Education Ministry is serious about ending the current impasse.
We're ready. We've said very clearly, the minute you're ready to honor the agreement that you signed that says once conciliation begins, the teachers the membership of this union will return to work in a state of normalcy. And there's no gun to our head saying pay 20% before we begin talking. We're ready to talk. It was we that initiated this conversation that has been left hanging. The union seems very happy to do lives and Facebook conversations and group meetings and so on. I'm not sure how that is fulfilling this calling they say their membership has collectively, which is to, advance the education of the children and their care.
The education minister said the current strike action could have already ended, adding that the ministry is prepared to see it come to an end. She noted, however, that while her side is prepared to engage and work out a solution, the Guyana Teachers Union continues to add new conditions to the negotiation process.
The union is refusing to go back to the classroom in accordance with this agreement they signed. And just when we were at a place where it appeared as though we were going to agree on conditions, because there were 4 conditions on the table, that we're all comfortable with the terminology, the language, the words used and all that. Then the union came with a surprise and they said, well, no, before we begin talking, we want 20%. Not as a back pay, not 20% for all those years, but 20% while we talk about how much more percent we will get on each of the years they want to negotiate for. And so that kind of unreasonableness cannot be acceded to. But the important thing here, Gordon, is the union is a union with long standing. They have a lot of experience. They have many years, decades of experience in being a union. And they must have known that was going to derail the entire process. Nobody asks for an across the board pay before we can even begin dialoguing. And nobody breaches the agreement they themselves are asking to enforce. So they must have known this was going to derail anything, which leads me to the conclusion that the union or rogue members thereof see some value, political or otherwise, in keeping teachers out of the classroom. I don't know anyone who could celebrate that, who has the children's interest at heart, or who are being true to the Constitution, where the paramount interest in any matter dealing with children must be the best interest of the children.
Manik Chan says she is mindful of the impact the strike action is having on the nation's education system, with learners facing more learning loss. She noted that the Education Ministry, through the Learning Channel and Edu FM radio, has prepared material to assist those learners who may be away from their classrooms because of the absence of the teachers. Resource material is also available on the Education Ministry's website. With the strike action ongoing since February, except for a brief pause during the court case, Minister Manik Chan insisted this afternoon that there must be some level of order and respect for the rules of engagement as the two sides hammer out a way forward.
We were very firm, 2024 forward, nothing else. They were firm, 2019 to 2023, nothing else. The fact that we were at conciliation was to see what both sides could compromise on. We, having written to the ministry, may indicate to you that we understand compromise would be on this table. The fact that you got up, the other side, the union got up and walked away from that table by their actions, must mean that they're not interested in compromise.
And on the issue of the court case that was filed and won by the Guyana Teachers Union, blocking the Education Ministry from slashing the salaries of striking teachers and forcing it to continue deducting union dues for the GTU, Manik Chan said she believes that the government's appeal will be successful. She noted, however, that in her opinion, the judge's ruling was in relation to the earlier strike action and not the current strike that has continued after the ruling, even after conciliation was activated.
The first strike, before the judgment, was a strike that the judge deemed to be lawful because we didn't go to conciliation, we didn't go to arbitration, we didn't engage that process. As a result of which, the teachers staying home was lawful. That's what he said. Because of that lawfulness, we're challenging all that, but I'm saying to you, if we take everything the judge said to be true, because of that lawfulness, you can't deduct salaries and you can't do these other things. This second strike, post-judgment, people must examine whether this is lawful. So let us say we were to lose in the appeal court, which we don't think we will lose. We believe we have a very strong case coming from a world full of authority that says if you don't work, you can't get paid. It's just like very, very logical. Or else you'll have to pay him when he strike as a private sector person. He stay home, you gotta pay him once it's legal, right? But let's say the judge was right and the union believes the judge is right. Then what you have engaged in here, because we have engaged the conciliation process, is an unlawful strike. And you're encouraging your members to stay on the road or stay out of the classroom in a strike where somebody has already pronounced that if it's unlawful, you could deduct salaries. Because that's the logical conclusion. Because it was lawful, he said, you can't deduct. So if this one is unlawful, then the suggestion is that you can go with what the rest of the world is doing, right? And so I think they're leading their members down a very dangerous path. People need their money.
To the parents of affected students, the education minister said she is saddened that she has not been able to partner with a responsible body in the Guyana Teachers Union to bring the strike action to an end.
We've sat down in many hours to try to get to a place where we could put an end to this, and that hasn't been forthcoming. And I hope they start understanding what the union is doing. I suspect, given the rise in numbers of teachers in the classroom, the teachers are beginning to understand that.
Today marked the 50th day of the strike action by the nation's teachers. More news coming up in just a moment.
It's one of your biggest goals, getting your own home, where memories are made, where happiness lives. You may feel that home ownership or renovation is beyond your reach, but we at Republic want you to know that there's always a way. Ask us about our suite of mortgages. Let's help make your housing wishes come true. Or advise on how the equity in your existing home can finance other dreams and goals. Call or go online to learn more.
Energize your drive promotion. Enter to win a fully loaded Toyota CHR or a ton of cash. $500,000 and $250,000 respectively. Just purchase 2 or more Lucosade 360 milliliter at participating outlets. Write your contact details on the back of the receipt and place them in the marked boxes nationwide. It's that simple. And you're on your way to energize your drive with Lucosade. This promotion runs April 12th to June 7th, 2024. Terms and conditions apply.
Guyanese are set to benefit from improved healthcare services countrywide. You will have access to specialized world-class hospitals, well-trained nurses, doctors, and other health professionals. The sum of $129.8 billion earmarked in Budget 2024 to create a resilient health sector is a mammoth increase from the $90.2 billion budgeted in 2023. Revenues earned from oil production support the fostering of a healthy nation through budgetary support for national development.
As several parts of Linden recovered from floodwaters today following two back-to-back days of heavy rainfall, Prime Minister Mark Phillips is laying blame for the flooding situation at the doorsteps of the Linden Mayor and Town Council. In a statement last evening, as many Lindeners face more flooding as the heavy rains continued, the Prime Minister said the government is fully committed to providing swift and effective relief, but stated that the municipality's neglect of clearing drainage in the town, along with the 2 days of rainfall, are responsible for the flooding situation. Prime Minister Mark Phillips said from all indications the areas affected by flooding are a direct result of the ineptitude, according to him, of the current mayor and councillors, who he said are focused on collecting revenues from all possible sources, while failing to maintain the drainage infrastructure essential for the safety of the residents now suffering from the floodwaters. He announced that the Ministry of Public Works, in collaboration with the Linden Town Council and the Office of the Regional Democratic Council, is working to clean and clear debris in critical areas, including alleyways in Wisma and the Retrieve area in Linden. Adding that the central government observed the issue with drainage during a recent visit, prompting a cleanup of drains in the central Mackenzie area in preparation for the 58th Independence Anniversary flag-raising ceremony last weekend. Prime Minister Phillips said a call for a swift response from the central government is the easy part, adding that the failure of the local and regional governance of Region 10 and the Mayor and Town Council of Linden needs urgent addressing. He said the collective failure to perform their duties, including taking advantage of the long dry season to clear the drains and clean up the entire town of Linden, is unacceptable. Prime Minister Phillips said the region's highest per capita budget should make it better prepared for flooding. The government has since announced that in response to the current situation, a multi-agency response has been activated, and the National Drainage and Irrigation Authority has engaged private contractors to clean and clear the drains to facilitate better water flow and reduce flooding. The Mayor of Linden, Sharma Solomon, in a statement yesterday said repeated efforts to get the help of central government to assist in the cleanup of drains and the clearing of the creeks over the past few months were met with silence. He also accused the current town clerk of ignoring the council's instructions to activate cleanup groups. The mayor said the central government only started a limited cleanup exercise last Friday in preparation for the national flag-raising exercise, which was held in the town. The exercise ended just before the event was hosted in the town on Saturday. While making it clear that the Region 10 Democratic Council and the Linden Town Council will not accept blame for the government's sloth in allocating resources that could have alleviated the current flooding situation being experienced in the town of Linden, Region 10 Chairman Darren Adams this evening told news sources that it is time for the government to stop shifting blame and to begin accelerating relief for the affected residents of Linden and Region 10. The Region 10 chairman provided documentation that showed that since October of 2020, the RDC has been making requests of the government for critical drainage works to be carried out across the region and in Linden. He said in letters to the Minister of Agriculture and the National Drainage and Irrigation Authority, a list of critical drainage facilities that needed attention was provided, but there was no response. Mr. Adams said it is the ignoring of the region's repeated requests that is responsible for the current situation being faced in the town of Linden and in parts of his region.
The Regional Democratic Council under my tenure has been advocating for the prioritization of drainage systems upgrades in Linden as well as in other outlying areas like Kokwani, etc. And this decision, policy decision, I must say, was unanimously voted on and supported by both the councillors who support the People's Progressive Party and the coalition. All right. We understand, based on our work in the constituency on the ground, the need for effective drainage and infrastructure, which of course will help to mitigate flooding and erosion, etc. And despite these efforts, central government has continuously disregarded these calls for action, and shockingly, they removed over 50 proposed drains from the budgets of 2021, 2022, 2023, and 2024 combined, and only allocated 3 drains under the capital for those years.
In a statement on Tuesday, while announcing that the government was dispatching relief teams to the Region 10 communities, Prime Minister Mark Phillips said the RDC and the Linden Town Council must shoulder the blame for the situation with drainage in the community, which has triggered the flooding after heavy rainfall. But the Region 10 chairman said the Prime Minister's position is misplaced, and he knows very well that the region does not handle the purse of the government.
The blame being shifted on the local leaders by the Prime Minister is unjust and unacceptable. I would have circulated to members of the public that since 2021 as a director of the NDIA, we completed a list of critical capital projects for those outfalls that lead to the Demerara River that should have been acted upon. They completely ignored it. And so the failure to execute those sensible policies where we said that drains must be constructed first and then roads is the blatant disregard for it has what has led to this. And so the blame must be laid at the feet of the government. All right. We in the region, as policymakers, we have a clerk of council who is appointed by the president, who is failing to execute decisions that are given by the council. How can the Prime Minister now, who is a senior official, understands that the RDCs are oftentimes between a rock and a hard place, because you can request something, yes, but the final say is with the Ministry of Finance, which is an arm of the government. They, of course, I just give you an example where they removed several drains that we proposed, only allocated 3 for us for the entire region. The Prime Minister must take the blame, and the shifting of this, of what is being experienced, must stop now. And what we call on them to do is to allocate resources now to pay persons, compensate persons who are affected.
Adams is now pushing for those residents who suffered losses as a result of the floods to be fully compensated by the government. He said the community will not accept blame for the government's own inaction.
Rev up your excitement and win the chance of a lifetime with Lucozade Energize Your Drive promotion. Enter to win a fully loaded Toyota CHR or a ton of cash. $500,000 and $250,000 respectively. Just purchase 2 or more Lucozade 360 milliliter at participating outlets. Write your contact details on the back of the receipt and place them in the marked boxes nationwide. It's that simple. And you're on your way to energize your drive with Lucozade. This promotion runs April 12th to June 7th, 2024. Terms and conditions apply.
Mobil 1 is more than oil. It's many oils. It transforms at the molecular level. When cold, it's thicker than honey. When hot, it's thinner than water. Mobil 1 adapts and readapts to last longer. 16,000 kilometers between oil changes. That's your engine evolved.
Sol Guyana is the authorized distributor of Mobil lubricants.
was pure last year. It was so nice. Me and them girls had real fun. It's the best party I ever went to. As a big one.
Backed by Popular Demand, Team Extra presents the Bad Birthday. June 22nd, 12 one-man band and running live. Stitchy Fight Machine, Murphy Invasion Band, Love Connection, Genesis, Big V, Cali World Band, Aaron the Entertainer, Honor Smooth, and many more. Early bird tickets at $2,000 at Just You Size Boutique, White Castle Fisher, Fireside Suites, Extra Beer, Starbucks, compliments of Fireside Suites, Extra Energy Drink, and Extra Beer. The Band's Birthday, Saturday, June 22nd at the National Park.
Let's tell you now that City Magistrate Lerone Daly has announced that a criminal trial in the elections fraud case against former Chief Elections Officer Keith Lowenfield, his former Deputy Roxanne Myers, and a number of other election officers and opposition members will commence on the 29th of July. Lowenfield and Myers, along with the former Region 4 returning officer Clement Mingo, opposition member of Parliament Volder Lawrence, People's National Congress reform member Carol Smith-Joseph, and the election officers Chauffeur in February, Enrique Liven, Denise Bob Cummings, and Michelle Miller, are facing a total of 28 charges of attempting to commit fraud at the 2020 general and regional elections. When the case was called in the Georgia Magistrates Court today, Special Prosecutor Darshan Ramdani informed Magistrate Daly that a constitutional challenge filed by Lowenfield and Myers over a perceived breach of their constitutional right to a fair trial was dismissed by the Chief Justice. Against that backdrop, the city magistrate proceeded to set the dates for trial. The trial will commence at 10 o'clock in the morning on the 29th of July and will continue until the 31st of July. And then it will restart on the 5th of August for another 2 days. More than 80 witnesses are expected to take the stand during the trial. In a telephone interview with News Source, the special prosecutor, Darshan Ramdani, said the prosecution is ready to proceed with the trial and will be putting a number of witnesses on the stand during the first days of the trial.
We'll start with one and we will have more in court, depending on how fast we can get through the witness. And we expect that every defense lawyer will want to cross-examine a witness, so that when we start with one witness, if they don't cross-examine, we will have the second one ready to go, and the third, and the fourth, and so on. That's the approach.
Minister of Local Government Sonia Parag and Communications Consultant Kit Nascimento are among the first set of witnesses to be called. On the issue of the constitutional challenge filed by Lowenfield and Myers that was dismissed by the High Court, Ramdani said the High Court had every right to dismiss that.
The Chief Justice was absolutely correct to dismiss the matter as being without, I suppose, effectively without merit. The Chief Justice indicated they were on a fishing expedition and there was no basis for the application to be made to the High Court. And that was the correct thing to do.
Lowenfield and Myers had contended that Section 142 of the Representation of the People's Act breached their right to a fair trial, as guaranteed by Article 144, and their right to equality before the law, as guaranteed by Article 149D of the Constitution. As such, in early March, City Magistrate Lerone Daly referred the question of fair hearing to the High Court, taking into account that the Representation of the People's Act bars the disclosures of minutes of meetings held by the Guyana Elections Commission. Lowenfield and Myers were contending that their actions were guided by the decisions of the Commission chronicled in those minutes, and it would only be fair for the minutes to be disclosed. But the acting Chief Justice, in dismissing the challenge, said the court found no evidence that their constitutional rights were likely to be infringed upon. The court also found that the public's interest in ensuring that GCOM's deliberations remain confidential overrides whatever constitutional rights that Lowenfield and Myers might enjoy. The Guyana Police Force announced last evening the arrest of WPA activist and online talk show host Kadaki Amsterdam on Tuesday. The police said he was arrested in connection with a cybercrime investigation related to statements made by a caller on his online talk show. The police said he is facing charges of using a computer system to transmit words spoken by a video that encourages or incites any person to commit the offense of murder against the president and members of the government, and using a computer system to disseminate information knowing same to be false. The second investigation is related to a complaint filed by a businessman related to statements allegedly made by Amsterdam on his morning talk show. The investigation is related to the statements that were made back in February on the show. Questioned as to whether investigators have been able to locate the caller who reportedly made the threatening statements at Amsterdam's program, the Guyana Police Force's Public Relations Office would only state that the investigations are ongoing.
Look at the breathtaking beauty of the Essequibo. From its pristine rivers to its abundant resources, it's a treasure that belongs to Guyana, and we ask Venezuela to respect the rule of international law.
Our commitment to this land is not just about ownership. It's about preserving its beauty and resources for our people and future generations.
The controversy between Guyana and Venezuela was settled internationally as full, perfect and final in 1899. Essequibo belongs to Guyana.
Guyana's economy is rapidly transforming, and we're all part of it. Guyana is at the forefront of this development by providing reliable and efficient energy and supporting community development from the very core. 100% of Guyana's profit goes back to building schools, roads, and other important infrastructure that connects our cities and towns, providing fuel to domestic, marine, industrial, and aerial transportation. Guyana has now repositioned itself as a market leader in the petroleum industry, building a better future for all of us.
It's one of your biggest goals, getting your own home, where memories are made, where happiness lives. You may feel that home ownership or renovation is beyond your reach, but we at Republic want you to know that there's always a way. Ask us about our suite of mortgages. Let's help make your housing wishes come true, or advise on how the equity in your existing home can finance other dreams and goals. Call or go online to learn more.
Bust the flavors. We're full of flavors. Bust the flavors that me crave for. We're full of flavors. Tell your neighbors about the bust the flavors. Grab a bust the flavors. Yeah, thirst buster. Grab a buster. Bust the flavor, taste the savor. Bust the flavors. Bust the flavors.
With your regional and international news tonight, I'm Svetlana Marshall in the region. Latin America's Human Rights Court holds a final hearing in Brazil on Wednesday in a case that's part of a global wave of climate litigation, as several international courts prepare first-time opinions on what countries must do to combat climate change. The rulings could also set off a wave of new litigation brought by citizens, businesses, and governments. Enforcement of such decisions is largely untested. However, a Swiss parliamentary committee last week rejected a ruling, for example, by a top European court that said Switzerland had violated the human rights of its citizens by not doing enough to prevent climate change. The Inter-American Court of Human Rights, IACHR, which holds jurisdiction over 20 Latin American and Caribbean countries, hopes to issue its advisory opinion by year-end. Top Justice Nancy Hernandez Lopez told Reuters. The final hearing on Wednesday is being held in the Amazon rainforest city of Manaus. Already last week, the International Tribunal set up under the UN Law of the Seas decided that carbon emissions amount to marine pollution and that countries must go beyond the Paris Agreement to protect oceans. Prime Minister of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Dr. Ralph Gonzalez, says his country's birth rate is falling and believes women need to have a few more children to replenish the stagnant population. He touched on the topic during a media conference on Monday while speaking about SVG's progress. At the same time, some of its challenges. According to Statista, a global data and business intelligence platform with an extensive collection of statistics, reports and insights, St. Vincent and the Grenadines has a population of just over 103,000 people. According to Statista's birth rate information for St. Vincent and the Grenadines for 2011 to 2021, the crude birth rate in St. Vincent and the Grenadines saw no significant changes in 2021 in comparison to the previous year, 2020, with 13.07 live births per 1,000 inhabitants, and remained at around 12.9 live births per 1,000 inhabitants. Yet, 2021 saw the lowest birth rate in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, with 11.9 live births per 1,000 inhabitants. The birth rate in 2011 was 16.48 live births per 1,000 inhabitants. And finally tonight, international news. South Africans voted on Wednesday in the most competitive election since the end of apartheid, with opinion polls suggesting that the African National Congress could lose its parliamentary majority after 30 years in government. Queues formed in the main cities of Johannesburg, Cape Town and Durban as polling got underway around 7 a.m., with lines also seen in the morning coal in townships on the outskirts of cities and in rural areas. Voters at polling stations across the country cited high rates of unemployment and crime, frequent power blackouts and corruption in ANC ranks as reasons why they would vote for opposition parties. Young voters who did not live through the apartheid were particularly disappointed with the ANC and the country's economic prospects. Others, however, were wary of change. A 62-year-old pensioner said he would remain loyal to the ANC, as he distrusted the promises made by opposition parties to create jobs, end power cuts, or crack down on crime. Then led by Nelson Mandela, the ANC swept to power in South Africa's first multiracial election in 1994 and has won a majority in national elections held every 5 years since then, though its share of the vote has gradually declined. If it falls short of 50% this time, the ANC will have to make a deal with one or more smaller parties to govern uncharted and potentially choppy waters for a young democracy that has so far been dominated by a single party. And that's your News Source Evening Bulletin for tonight. I'm Svetlana Marshall reporting and encouraging you to stay safe.